Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mindful Leader Practices podcast. Today, we have with us Leslie Fiorenzo. She is a business presentation coach. Don't we need a business presentation coach with ourselves all the time? I wish I could bring Leslie along with me because that's what I do in my solopreneurship. And she is the one who is empowering individuals to build self confidence, to conquer stage fear, to step confidently on the stage, to be yourself, and to give your best. I'd love to welcome Leslie on our show, on our stage today. Welcoming Leslie.
Thank you, Anu. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm so thrilled.
It's really awesome that you are here. And I am curious because all coaches have a backstory
Sure.
right there on how they came to doing what they are doing. And my curiosity is piquing me to ask you that question. What's brought you here?
Well, this is my third attempt at entrepreneurship, let's put it that way. So back in the 2000s, there's a 10-year period of my life, I say I did about 5 different things to try to create one full-time income, and it didn't happen. So I went back to work. I got invited back to a job. And so I took that job and then got certified in a coaching program. And the world shut down in March of 2020, 2 weeks after I gave my notice. And so that things didn't work out as I had planned, nor the person I was working with that I got certified in her program to deliver. So anyway, we regrouped and I went back to work for a company, and now I'm at it again because Anu, it won't leave me alone. And I think that's true for many entrepreneurs I've spoken with. There's a desire, there's a compelling burning desire inside them that they have to see this to fruition. And that's what it is for me.
Mm. But why this? Why, why,
Oh,
why,
why presentation coaching?
why presentation coaching? Why, what's about that that is
Well,
speaking to you?
you probably know that online coaching is the second fastest growing industry in the world. Yet many coaches struggle with self-promotion. And if their course or their service or their program is a secret, they're not going to be able to grow their business.
Mm,
So I believe it's being able to create and share a powerful story. And I've spent a lot of my career helping people do just that. So now instead of being in business and industry, I, like you, want to be a solopreneur and am a solopreneur and want to help people in that way so that they can share their message with their ideal client, being really focused and specific. The mistake I made early on, and I've seen a lot of people do this, you might have to, is trying to be everything to everyone, way too broad. And what I like to remind myself, it's the power of a laser beam versus an incandescent or now LED light bulb, right? Light
mm,
bulbs that we use in our home, light, but
mm,
the power of a laser beam, similar energy. I mean, it's electricity,
mm.
but you're much more powerful when you're focused and specific.
There are three things you said, and I want to double click on at least two of them, which I am so curious. One is that how many of the coaches have these programs which are a secret?
I know. I
Nobody
know.
knows about them. Oh my God. And that just kind of hurt here. I'm like, oh. So I think
Well,
that is
people
that
spend
is
so
true.
much time and energy creating their course. I know this. I mean, I know I did this.
Yeah.
I didn't fact check it, right? I didn't know if there was interest, and it was very broad and general. It wasn't specific. So guess what? No sales.
No sales. So yeah, that was number one, which is kind of resonated. And in fact, that one hit here, right here. And
Yeah.
the second one was like we're trying to do so many things, which is also true with so many new coaches and even coaches who've been there in the business for many years would like, okay, I'll try this and I'll try this. This person's doing this. So let me just attack it from all angles and see what lands.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, and that's the problem, because you get too fragmented and too pulled in too many different directions. So the more we can be focused and the fewer things, master one. So I'll
mm,
just pick on social media, right? Because people feel like, well, I've got to post here, there, and everywhere. Choose one platform, the platform where your client is liable to show up. Like, who, once you've identified who is your perfect fit, where do they hang out? And
mm,
that's where you want to hang out. And that's where you want to share your message. Just one place. Master that. Then you can move on to the next place. But if you're trying to do, I made this mistake,
mm,
trying to do three, and it's overwhelming. You get frustrated. And so then you give up and you don't
mm,
get anywhere.
the laser focus. So you also explained the third thing, which was the need for laser focus.
Yeah,
Let's talk about presentation
sure.
itself for a little bit. There's so many aspects to it. There is this, the physical aspects of how
Sure.
do I
Mhm.
find my voice and, the right words come out at the right time.
Yeah.
And then the second one is in expressing my value proposition. And then there are other aspects of how do I come across in an email. So there is this whole idea of presentation at multiple levels. And so
Mhm.
what is it you are trying to work with, and what are the different ways you look at presentation?
Well, one of the things I help my clients do is create what I call their signature story. So much like the questions you were asking me, how did you get here? Why are you doing this? To really uncover their why, what drives them, and what mission are they on to share with their clients, to help their clients. So being clear and specific about that and communicating that, you could take that message and expand it. They could, if they're, again, an online coach, which I'm guessing many people are in this space, to an hour webinar,
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to a 30-second pitch. If I'm introducing myself at a networking event, a lot of virtual networking events, you have 60 seconds or less to share your message. So every word is important. And sometimes even in a written word, in a written format, you have limited characters, limited space.
Mm-hmm.
So refining that to be very clear and, again, specific and attract, because words matter to people. And if you are looking at very technical people for your market, you're going to probably want to use some technical language. But if you're not, then you have to think about all those words. And I want to help my clients do that. So we
Mm-hmm.
go through a process.
The jargons and the acronyms and the things
Yes,
people don't understand. Are we speaking to them, or are we speaking at them?
right,
Right? When we are
exactly.
speaking at things they don't understand, they're like, that's not really registering.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Mm,
imagine that your perfect client is in front of you. What do they want to hear? Now you're going to
mm,
share what eventually you'll get to what they need. But first of all, it's about what they want, because
mm,
people buy for two reasons: what they want and what they need. But
mm.
most of the time, it's what I want, right?
What they want.
I'm maybe want to solve a problem, but by and large, if we think about it, it's to fill something that I desire. So what
Ah,
is it that your ideal client desires, and how do you give them that? How do you deliver that? So what's
yeah.
the language that you need to use to that resonates? What you want to have people say is, "Oh my gosh,
Mm,
they get me. She gets me. He gets me. They
mm,
understand the
mm,
predicament I'm in, and they have a solution." So
mm,
those are the words you want to choose.
what do they want? Not even necessarily what do they need, what do they
Yeah,
want?
yeah,
Starting there.
yeah.
I I was thinking about this, like I travel, and then wherever I travel, and say I'm from US, and they'll say, "Oh, you guys talk a lot, and you can you can say anything," and then I come back home, and I'm like, that may be true that we talk a lot, but are we talking the right things? And are there things people want to hear? So is there a gap in that? Why is this a challenge when we all know how to talk?
That's really interesting. I think it's about it's maybe sharing information that again is important, that resonates with someone. And we can share a, a lot of information. What I like to remind my clients of is facts tell, but stories sell. So
Mm,
imagine you are in front of a group and they're asking you questions. So you can respond in one of two ways. You can share data. There's all kinds of data points in any industry, or you can tell them a story.
mm,
And as humans, we like stories. It's kind of in our DNA, right? We sat by the campfire thousands of years ago. The hunters came back in. They regaled everybody with their terrific story of killing the beast and bringing it home. We still like that.
mm,
And
mm,
so that's what we want to be able to do is, okay, yeah, online coaching is the second fastest growing industry in the world. So what? What does that mean? There's a lot of competition out there. But if I can differentiate myself with story, what
mm,
makes me unique? Why should someone listen to my particular point of view? And the other thing, and this is a little bit off tangent, Anu, but we have to remember we're not right for everyone, and
mm,
that's okay.
mm,
We will have a specific following, and
mm.
that's the person we want to attract.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Both the things, like you said, the stories sell, and it's the story you tell. And even today, camping, when we go camping, we have close friends who'll tell all kind of stories, and we just like wait for the day to be over, and so that we can make a campfire and have those stories, and that becomes my favorite part of the whole trip. So thousands of years later, we're still doing that, and appreciate that. And also, the story itself can convey more than what the facts can. And so, what's the story we are telling?
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
you'll remember a story
yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to just some random data that somebody shared.
Yes, yes. Mm, The other thing which I was really helping me is that when you say imagine this, and I'm really going into it right away and coming along with you. So that was very powerful as well. So great.
Good.
So as you're aware, my podcast is Mindful Leader Practices podcast, and I love the lot of work we do is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I in the current moment, and how do I respond to situations? And then, what do I want to do? It goes back to what do others want, but also what do I want to do? And it's somewhere the intersection of those two. So mindfulness is a question I have for everyone who comes here. So
Sure.
it's a standard question.
Of course.
How does mindfulness play into the work you do? And if it does,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh,
then
definitely.
how do you bring it to the client?
Yeah. So one of the things that I work with my clients on is helping them take their inner critic, because we all have an inner critic, some little voice that's not very nice, that
Mm,
says some not very nice things to us, and challenging that inner voice and turning it around so it's an inner champion. So I
mm,
need an encourager. I need somebody to spur me on, applaud me, cheer me. To me, that work is ongoing, but it starts at the beginning of the day. I have a morning routine that involves some things. One is a gratitude practice, a gratitude journal, some yoga, mindfulness practices, breathing. I love breathing exercises as a way to bring myself back. So when I work with clients that are afraid of stepping out, whether it's on camera or on stage, a breathing technique that I've practiced before I need it is a really helpful tool. And there's several, and I always, we have to pick a favorite, something that you'll come back to again, and then it becomes natural. The other thing is with mindfulness practices, and I'm sure you probably teach your clients that too, is I have to be able to call on them in the moment as our days are busy. I mean, people today have more information, more data, more things coming at them than ever before. There's always some new app, some new opportunity, some new way to communicate. I mean, honestly, I wish some days I knew I could go back to coming back to my office where there was a landline phone and I had pink slips on my desk. That was how we communicated, right? Somebody would leave me a message. My assistant would write it down.
Yeah. Make it simple again.
I know. So we have to really sort through. And again, that's that idea of focus, I think, is a mindfulness technique or mindfulness practice to really decide what are the top 3 things that I want to accomplish with my day today. And focusing on those, not letting myself get distracted. And then when they're accomplished, I could do something else. But what are the top 3? I think 3 is a useful number.
In the list, they say 3 is what you can remember also.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So you talked about your favorite practice. Is it something you'd be willing to share with our audience today?
Sure. Breathing techniques, you mean? Yeah.
Breathing.
So the 4-part breath, some people call it boxed breathing.
Yeah.
Breathing into the count. So as you breathe into 4 counts, you imagine drawing a line up. I guess it doesn't matter. You could draw it horizontal, but I start vertically. So 4 counts up, and then you're going to hold your inhale for 4 counts. So you're drawing a cross in your head. And then as you exhale for 4, you're down. And then as you hold that final inhale, it's across the bottom. So you have the image of a square or a box in your head. Now, I learned this the other day because I've been practicing this technique for a long time. Was at a workshop probably 4 weeks ago. And the speaker said one way to lower your heart rate is to hold that final exhale from 4 counts to 8. And I thought that was real. I didn't know that. They said, that box breathing is a great technique, gets you calm, gets you even. But if you've maybe gotten a surprise, something that was a little alarming, something that elevated your blood pressure, holding that final exhale for 8 counts instead of 4. And then you start again. So repeating it 2 or 3 times, but that holding your exhale will drop your heart rate.
Should we try it?
Sure.
I'm curious. Let's.
Do you want?
I'd love to do that.
Okay. Well, I can talk you through it. You'll have to breathe and I can count.
Okay. Let's do that.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, we'll start. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how do you feel? I hope everybody was following along and breathing.
This was just awesome. I mean, you sometimes just need that 1 or 2 rounds and
Yes.
you can see the effect. And I experienced it.
Yeah, good. Well, the other thing I do is I have 3 reminders on my phone. One at the beginning of the day, one at midday, and one before I go to bed. To just remind me to do that. So it sets an alarm off, or a text box comes up. I don't have my phone does not make any noise. I have all my
Apps.
notifications silenced.
Ah,
So it comes up as a text.
yeah. And isn't that great too to reduce the clutter and the noise? I think that the focus, you talked about focus a lot.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I think our one of our biggest challenges with focus is, how the watch even tells you time to stand up. Watch tells you there's a message. Phone starts ringing on the watch. So you just like you are a prisoner to your devices. And I
You don't
mean,
have to
not
be.
you, I mean, we are.
No, yes, everybody. Yeah. We can make some choices.
Yeah.
I've look, it's probably been 6 or 7 years, and I was listening to a podcast. The gentleman was talking about turning off all your notifications. I have they're not all.
Mm,
If I get a incoming call, it will
mm,
notify me.
mm, mm,
If I get my text messages,
mm, mm,
will notify me. Otherwise, no email, no Facebook Messenger,
mm,
no notifications from any social media app that I did. There's nothing. I have to spend time, even email. I
mm,
don't have little, because you look at the face of your phone and you have all those little numbers staring you at oh my gosh, it'll freak you like, oh, I got it. No, you may choose the time to respond.
mm.
That's the beauty of autoresponders on email to me.
Yeah.
Let people know. I check my email at 2 o'clock and at 6 o'clock. And
Yeah.
then they're not expecting. And again, in organizations, I think this becomes significant as people work together, being clear about the expectations.
Mm, mm,
If I am engaging with a client, for let's say, I'll tell them when they can expect to hear back from me.
mm,
Same with coworkers. If you work with a group of people, what's the expectation? Is it within 2 hours or is it within 24? I think 24 is a much more reasonable number. Everyone has responsibilities. We all are focused on projects. So let's be kind to ourselves, but be kind to others by being clear about what expectations are.
mm,
Brene Brown says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And I
mm.
think we need to be kind to each other, but setting those expectations and communicating that.
Yeah.
Let people know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think you're inviting us to take charge. It's not the social media notifications who are in charge of your life who are going to tell you, "Oh, move your attention to this message. I will drive you. I'm I'll drive your attention."
Yeah.
Versus who is the one who can drive the attention? It's us.
Yes.
And if
Yes.
we can become in charge of that, then we can do all the things which are necessary to drive our attention to what's important.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
goes back to focus. And then the thing you talk about is clarity in expectations. Clear is kind and unclear is unkind.
Yeah.
Powerful. Yeah, clarity in expectations itself is
Yeah.
powerful.
Well, and it's clarifying expectations for myself too.
Yeah.
Like, what are how I'm going to run my day? Am I going to run my day or am I going to let my day run me?
And plus,
I want to be
cre-
in charge of
creating
my
grace
day.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Also, being kind to yourself, you're creating space and grace that I don't have to jump on the stuff in this moment.
Yes.
Wow.
It, there's a saying about that. Your emergency isn't necessarily mine or something along those lines. And
Mm,
it won't, not coming to me exactly how it's said, but that is so true. It is my choice, my prerogative. Setting that expectation from the very beginning, I think is really important.
mm, mm, mm. So, shifting gears a little bit to talk about your work you do. How do people find you? How do you work with them? Let's just
Sure.
talk
Well,
a
they
little
can
bit
find
about that.
me on my website. So lesliefiorenzo.com. And if they want to learn more, I do have a free download of my Fearless Speakers Blueprint if they're interested in looking at that. Or they could book a call. We could have a no obligation
Mm,
conversation to see if I can help. But more than that, when I work with people, it's really understanding what they want to accomplish. So I always ask my clients, where do you want to be in 6 weeks? What are you trying to do? So one of the gentlemen I recently worked with, his goal was to do a really impactful 7-minute presentation, an opportunity to speak to a group for 7 minutes. And that's all the time he had. He knew they were going to cut him off if he went longer. And so he wanted to make sure that his language was spot on, that he was effective in his communication, and that people would then book a call with him or find out more about what he could do and how he could help and book an appointment. So that was the work we did.
Sometimes making things shorter is a bigger challenge.
Well, yes.
Isn't
Yes.
it more concise, articulate, shorter but impactful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think today we are inundated with, again, so much information that our attention spans are brief. And used to be, advertisers would say it would take 7 impressions for someone to even recognize your brand or your, whatever it was you were trying to get in front of them. Now I think it's closer to 20 impressions, because again, we are just inundated with information and messages. There's so many more places to get messages from.
And yeah, there is no stopping. It's coming at us from everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
So we're coming towards the end, and is there anything that you wanted to add which I haven't asked, or something you want to talk about and say, oh, if I get an opportunity on this podcast, here's what I'd like to talk about?
So I worked with a woman, this came up to mind today. She used to say, life comes in bunches. And I think that's true. There's sometimes we have a lot of activities, a lot of things happening, a lot of things going on in our life. And we seem like, oh my gosh, being able to focus one thing at a time, one moment at a time, I believe is very important. So if I can, that's why the distractions on mobile devices and all that, clear out that clutter, clear away that clutter, to spend time being really focused and thoughtful. We are going to do ourselves a favor, and we're going to do everyone around us a favor if we can approach it from that vantage point. So I can come to the conversation in a manner where I'm willing to stay calm and listen and look at your point of view. One of the key phrases I have learned to use is, wow, that's really interesting. Now, it doesn't mean I agree with you, but that's an interesting perspective. I've never thought of it that way. And so, because I know you know this, Anu, there's all kinds of ways we can disagree. We don't have to be disagreeable. So being present with someone and being willing to listen. I think that's maybe that ability to listen is getting to be a lost art, because we're so busy, we're so inundated. And the last time someone listened to you, I bet it felt really good. When you felt heard, it felt really good. So I think we want to be able to do that for people. And that to me is mindfulness.
And that's very powerful. Our world needs it. I think there is just so much of, distrust and, conflict, and not productive conflict. I
Oh,
mean, conflict can be constructive and
oh
productive,
yeah.
but here's a conflict where people are, strong emotions is running that, and people are getting so attached to their point of view, and there is no room for, oh, this is interesting, this is something different, this is not, I may not agree, but I am open. And that openness itself can go a long way. This is very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have the opportunity to share your point of view. I mean, we live in the United States. It's a free country. We have the ability to speak freely. It doesn't mean I agree with your point of view, but I will defend your right to have it all day long.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. That- of course, and it
Yeah,
feels very good. Even to hear that feels good,
yeah,
right? We have, we agreeing on everything. We have no conflict at all. And yet, when you say that, I'll defend it all day long. There's something in me said, yeah, I mean, this is the person I want to stay connected with.
yeah,
This is how powerful that expression itself is.
yeah.
So I think you are even inviting us to choose our expression.
Yes.
So even in listening is one thing, but responding to even convey on how I listen to you was very powerful.
Well,
So
and gosh, Anu, I might learn something if I really listen. I mean, most of the time we listen to for a break in the conversation so I can insert my idea. But what if I listened from a perspective of, huh, what can I learn from that? What new idea could she share? How could I take that message and share it again? Like, what can I learn? I come from that learning perspective. I will just add this. The best demonstration I've ever seen of this concept was in Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, in habit 5, where he says, seek first to understand, then be understood.
mm,
And there's a conversation that he compares and contrasts between a father and son. Extremely powerful, the difference between the two when the dad was willing to listen and ask some questions to draw his son out. So that's what I always recommend to people if they're interested in that.
Thank you, Leslie. And this is
You're
a
welcome.
great place to stop.
Yeah.
And for also mindful practices listeners, that the invitation is, can we listen in more mindfully? Can we seek to understand the person, even when we don't agree with them? So thank you, Leslie, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Mindful Leader Practices.